My name is Juan Estrada. I'm with District 5 United, and we hold meetings to allow others to provide information to the community, and whether that's elected officials like tonight or city or county departments. And on today's agenda, we have Ernesto Bejarano, an Alum Rock Union School District trustee, who will talk to us about the exploration of the use of solar panels by the district. And we also have Jorge Casas, who is expected to join to provide an update from the District 5 Council office and take questions and answers. Ernesto will also be available for questions and answers. Please do pose any questions now or throughout the presentation or when we start the questions via the Q&A feature at the bottom. And take it away, Ernesto.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Juan, and thank you for everything you do, Juan, for the community and have done over a good amount of time now. Your dedication to all of us is really appreciated. So I just want to thank you for that overall, and also thank you for allowing me to have a little bit of time tonight. Before I go any further, I do want to wish a happy birthday to my daughter. She's turning 15 today, so I'm taking a few minutes from that to be here with you all tonight, but I think this is something that is worth taking a few minutes here. So Juan, let's see, what's the best way for me to share my screen here? So I have this, I'm not sure, Juan, can you see the full screen of this
Yes,
PowerPoint that I have here? Okay.
yes.
Okay, so good. So I have this little brief presentation that I'm going to provide here tonight, and I will put it on I get my Facebook page. So after this, I'll post it on if you just search on Facebook for Ernesto Bejarano trustee, Alum Rock trustee, you'll find me there, and I'll post this tonight at some point. But again, my name is Ernesto Bejarano. I'm currently the president of the Alum Rock School District Board of Trustees. And what I'm going to be presenting to you tonight, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in Alum Rock, but specifically tonight I'll be talking about a proposal that I brought to our board at our last board meeting to look into the possibility of Alum Rock School District exploring a solar power program. So that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. So let's see if I can get this going. Okay. So, and I'm going to try to rush through this one because I know you have another speaker, but I'll try to cover everything. So, about it for the past year or so, actually, before I got onto the board, I was really interested in looking into solar. I know we drive by a lot of these schools and places, and we see those big solar panels, and I didn't see them in Alum Rock schools, so I just was interested. So, at several meetings that I attended over the past year, I really had a lot of conversations with people throughout the state, solar companies, just exploring the possibility. And then in one of our special board meetings where we talked about our budget and our bonds program, um, there was some interest from a few of my colleagues as well to look into this. So I continued to do some work behind the scenes to try to bring something to the board for our consideration. So there's a couple things or a few things tonight that I want to just cover because these are the basics really of what was proposed. So one is the types of solar programs that are possible to school districts. There's several. The one we're going to focus primarily on is called a solar power purchase agreement that's known as a PPA. We'll talk about a little bit about what, if any, costs there are to the district, a risk analysis that was done by our legal and financial team at the district, and any benefits or risks to Alum Rock School District. So that's basically what I'm going to cover tonight. So there's two common models that school districts typically use for their solar programs. One of them, and there's more, but these are the two that seem to be most common. One of them is an ownership program, and under this program, the district actually purchases the equipment. They pay for the installation, they pay for the maintenance of the equipment over time, and it's owned by the district. And because it's owned by the district, all of the benefits that they realize during the course of those using of those panels, it comes to the district. The downfall to that is that you have to come up with that money up front. And so some districts use a bond or they use a loan, and there's other, different programs that you can use. But for Alum Rock, right now, those are not really an option for us. So there was a lot of questions from my colleagues and from the community about getting a bond and having to spend money on this. I want to be very clear that under a PPA, that is not the arrangement. That there's no bond on the table. That was never brought up as a part of this, so it's not part of the discussion. We know that a bond or a loan, for that matter, is not really what's best in the best interest of Alum Rock right now. So that being said, what is available to us is a very common arrangement that is used nationwide, really, and around in our area, many districts have used this, and it's what I mentioned as a PPA. So under a PPA, the developer, the solar company, they arrange for the design, the permitting, the financing, and the installation of the entire system. So all the panels, the wiring, everything, and they're also responsible for the maintenance over time. So the district doesn't have to come up with any money up front for the purchase of the materials, the installation, or for the maintenance ongoing of the system throughout the years. Um, what this allows the developer to be able to do is, because they own the equipment and they're responsible for it on our property, they essentially become our energy company. So we, instead of paying the energy company that we currently use, we begin to pay the solar company. Now, the benefit of that is solar energy is typically cheaper than the amount that we currently pay. So because the amount that we would pay to the solar company under a PPA is less than what we pay right now, the money that remains that we normally would be paying goes into our general fund as a district. Um, these types of arrangements typically range from 10 to 30 years, although they're usually at the longer end of that, 25 to 30, from what I've been able to ascertain. I mentioned the developer is in charge of or responsible for maintenance. And at the end of the PPA, this is something that, would be negotiated. The district, could have the option to purchase the system or to just end the contract or whatever it may be. That's part of what would be in the negotiations if we were to get into an arrangement like this. I talked about that. So the financing, because the PPA essentially allows for a new revenue source, it allows us to have more money in our general fund that could go towards numerous needs that we have as a district. So here's some of the potential benefits just in general of a PPA to a school district, and I've already mentioned a few of them. One is that there's no or very low upfront cost because of how I described the arrangements typically happen. The school district does not come up with money upfront. So again, no bond, no loan, no financing. That's not how this works. No outside financing. And the school, as soon as those systems are set up and as soon as they flip the switch and those panels go operational, we begin to realize the difference between the old power company and the new one, and those savings start happening as soon as they flip that switch. Um, and the reason for this is because typically energy costs rate increase anywhere between 2 and 5% a year. So that is why right now, if we just stay with the energy provider that we have now, we can expect that our energy costs will increase 2 to 5% a year over time. Whereas with a PPA, your cost is fixed, so you're not continuing to increase as you would with the current power company. Let's see. Another thing, a lot of these companies utilize the work that they're doing to create learning opportunities and kind of like learning units for students around STEM. So they provide different opportunities for students to learn about solar energy and all the different things that go into maintaining that type of system. And finally, obviously, we would be doing our part as a district to reduce our carbon footprint and help out the environment. And obviously, there's lessons possible in that for students as well. Specific to our district, so those were kind of general benefits to any school district. Some that are a little more specific to our district is that, so one of the things when I mentioned that meeting that we had in January talking about our bond program, one of the things that came up was that one of our primary needs that we have that needs to come from bond money at this time is these old, outdated electrical panels that we have. Our staff has done a great job over the years of maintaining them and making it work, but they're outdated and they need to be replaced to the extent that they have become, they're classified as a safety risk right now. So in that meeting, there was a solar provider there, and I asked if it would be possible if someone were to get into an arrangement with them for solar, could they actually replace those solar panels as part of their arrangement? And they said that because solar and the old system that we currently have are not really, they wouldn't connect if we set up a solar system. But because that company or companies know about that type of stuff, they could potentially replace those those electrical panels that are old and outdated, and just kind of roll those costs into our plan that we would have under the solar agreement. So what this would allow for, I believe it was like $1.4 million currently out of our bond money that we have, 5 million and a little more. $1.4 million that would need to go to those electrical panel replacements would potentially be off the table and covered by this solar arrangement. And we could then free up that $1.4 million from our bond program to spend on other needs that were also identified in that assessment. So again, these are things that would need to be negotiated and become part of our agreement. But the message that I got from speaking publicly in that meeting, as well as with our legal team and financial team at the district, is that it's definitely a possibility. And as I mentioned, the monies that we would save on this go towards our general fund that could be spent on many different things that our district needs. Some of this is repetitive, but again, the source of funds, there's no need for funding up front. I'll get to a table really quickly in a minute that our financial person, Mr. Chang, presented at the last meeting, but the potential savings that we could realize are about $200,000 to $400,000 annually. That's based on some different assumptions, and over the course of an agreement could reach between $20 to $40 million. So that's, again, savings that we would have paid to, the difference between what we would pay to our current electric company or energy company versus what we would pay to the new solar company. So that's a significant amount of money, and that's why I appreciate my colleagues passing this to at least move forward and explore this last month, because with that kind of money, that's not money that's easily comes to Alum Rock right now. And so I hate to think that we would be leaving that money on the table without even exploring it. So I'm glad we are moving forward to at least looking into the possibility at this time. As I mentioned, Alum Rock is kind of like almost like an island right now in our neighboring districts. Many, if not most, districts have already gone to solar. Some of them are listed here: Eastside, Berryessa, San Jose Unified, Franklin McKinley, Oak Grove, Milpitas. All these districts have gone, and I've spoken to several of these districts' trustees, and they're in a number of different arrangements. Some own, some PPA, but they're all realizing between $500,000 to $1 million a year in savings from what they were paying to their old energy companies. And then this other one here just talks about how common these arrangements are. So this is not like a new little thing. These are fairly common arrangements that have been happening nationally for some time now, like the past 10 to 15 years. So as I mentioned, this is the financial analysis. And again, I'll put this on my Facebook page so you can look better. But typically, energy costs go up anywhere between 2 to 4% per year is the assumption. And I asked in our board meeting if that's kind of like a common industry standard. and our financial person said they did an analysis, and they found that over 30 years, it was about 4.5%. And in 10-year segments, it was about 2.75%. So just for the purposes of this example, we'll go with 3%, which is this column here. So over the course of this is a 25-year plan. That's what this example is. So over the course of 25 years, this at a 3% increase in energy cost, this is how much we would pay every year. So year one, 1,488,000. Then the next year, prices would increase a little and continue to increase over those 25 years because it increases about 3% every year. The price that we would pay under a fixed PPA, and again, this is an example, these are negotiations that would need to happen, but it's fairly accurate. The fixed rate, we would end up paying about $1.27 million per year. So the difference between this that we're currently paying, that's increasing every year with a 3% energy increase in this example, the difference between this amount and the amount that's fixed under a PPA is the amount that we would save. So if we looked here at column B, because we're using 3% here from column B, the net savings in this example, excuse me, year one would be 462,000. Year two, an additional 506, and we go all the way down. Every year, these are the amounts that would be saved because our cost here is fixed here, where it's increasing in the current energy that we have. So over the course of the 25 years in a 25-year agreement, the district would save about $28.5 million. So that's the financial analysis. Again, this is an example. It would need to be negotiated, some of these terms, but it's definitely within the ballpark of reality. And it's consistent with the conversations that I've had with other districts and what they've told me. So our legal person, our attorney, also provided a memo that's publicly available on our website from last month's meeting. But in the memo, I just pulled out a few parts. There's no high upfront capital costs, which goes to the point that I said, no bonds, no loans. Typically, the developer bears all costs and expenses of the installation, operation, and maintenance of all of the solar system and equipment for the entire duration of the contract, except for transactional costs, i.e. the cost of negotiating the contract. There could be no cost to the district in connection with the system. So again, there's no cost for buying the stuff, installing the stuff. The only cost to us would be paying our team to do these negotiations to get us the best deal in something like this. And the other part is results in budgetary savings to the school district. So this was the analysis that our legal person did. And he's the one that he's worked on these types of arrangements with many of the districts around us, or at least several of them. So he's very familiar with these types of arrangements. And so my final thoughts here are that, as in any contract, Alum Rock needs to be vigilant and thorough in making a decision on solar. This district has learned some painful lessons around this kind of thing, and it's definitely something that we're all aware of as trustees, as staff, and as a community. But that being said, I think, in my opinion, as one trustee and as a community member here in the district, I think that the families and the students of Alum Rock deserve for us as trustees and as a community to look into this possibility, and in my opinion, to move forward with it. Because as I've demonstrated, hopefully there's the very real potential of significant long-term benefits to our district. And so again, there's still more work to be done on this. One other quick point that I wanted to touch on, I know there was some concern from our community about utilizing our staff's time to do this, because like I mentioned, there's a lot of things that we're trying to figure out with reopening schools and getting everything taken care of. But when I had meetings prior to bringing this to the board, I had meetings with our team and I asked them, is this realistic? Is this something that you can do? And the response that I got from our legal team and the rest of our team, our financial team, was that because these arrangements are very common now, or common enough, there's a lot of templates that can be used, or the arrangements are understood. So it would be more a matter of tweaking things to fit our district, but it's not like they would need to come up with all of this type of an agreement from scratch. It's kind of out there already. It's just a matter of making it fit for us. So the message that I got from them was that it's definitely doable in terms of the allocation of their time. And again, if we have to allocate some time now to get this work done, which does not seem to be very exhaustive based on everything that I've learned, to me, that's a fantastic investment for the long-term benefits that we could realize in one of these arrangements. So homework still to be done, research still to be done, work to be done, but I wanted to just make sure that the community was informed about the actual facts of what these arrangements look like, because there's been a lot of messaging going out from different places that's not exactly accurate. So I just wanted to share this. So thank you, Juan, for the time to do this. Thank you, everyone, for paying attention and giving me the time. And I'll pass it back to you, Juan. Thank you.
You're muted, Juan.
Oh, Andres, I didn't
Can't
even know
hear
you were
you.
here. I was looking at a different screen. Oh, then
Juan, you're muted.
let me get my last slide up. I didn't put it up because I didn't know you were here, but Trustee
I'm sorry, I
Quintero,
was clicking on mute. So,
yeah,
Gotcha.
Trustee
All
Quintero
right.
had worked with me on this too.
so let me go ahead and segue. So thank you to Ernesto Bejarano and Alum Rock Union School District trustee for joining us to provide information. He and our next panelist, Andres Quintero, also an Alum Rock Union School District trustee, will take questions afterward. And I have a welcome surprise. We've been using this webinar format and the Q&A feature, and I just want to throw out to everybody that at this point in time, I see the option for allowing attendees to share their screen. And so I will allow you to pose your question via video afterward, unless you object. And thank you, Andres. Go ahead.
All right. Hey, so thank you for this opportunity, Juan. I think that it's a good opportunity to get out there and I'm sure that my colleague President Bejarano has mentioned it, but the idea here is to just simply explore and to bring forward ideas and thoughts, and so nothing has been decided. The actions that we took at the last meeting were simply to go ahead and start exploring and see if this actually works for Alum Rock, if it actually makes financial sense. And so if it has been mentioned, my apologies for repeating it, but I think it's worth repeating that the intention here is to simply go out there and explore what works for Alum Rock. Because if there's an ability to save some money, I think it's incumbent upon us, and it's our responsibility to go out there and explore it. And so, with that being said, Juan, I have invited some folks who are folks from the labor movement who are experienced, who have worked on these projects, and so they are here. Other folks who are experts in this field and have worked on projects in other places. And so Josue Garcia works with the mechanical trades, the unions. Will Smith is actually with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, IBEW. And Anthony Kinslow happens to be a PhD out of Stanford who happened to work on these projects. And I think it's important for them to go ahead and talk about their experience with these projects, and also talk about some of the possibilities. They have a lot of models that they've observed that have been used in other places. And so, as I mentioned, nothing has been decided. I know some questions were raised about what company is a union. There is no company. Nobody's been identified yet. All of these things are just being explored. And so, I've actually talked to Dr. Bauer as well as Board President Bejarano to go ahead and set up a study session so that we can dedicate some time solely on this issue, because it is a big issue. It needs to be well thought out. Staff needs to have proper time to present whatever it is that they're going to present. We have to be able to vet out all these models and make sure that they actually make sense for us. So, Juan, if it's okay, these folks would probably it would probably be best if they can go ahead and speak about their experience on projects, and
Sure.
he brings in a unique perspective.
Okay.
Where he studied the access to renewable energy from minority communities. And so I think that brings a different perspective on the whole issue of renewable energy. So I don't know, Josue, if you want to kick it off, and then you can point out how you guys have organized yourself.
Okay,
So
give me a second. I just promoted Josue to a panelist. Josue, thank you for joining us. You can share your video and audio now.
Yes, sir. Can you guys hear me, see me?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Oh, Juan, what? First of all, thank you for having me, and good to see you, Juan. President Bejarano, congratulations. Very, very good explanation. And Andres, Trustee Quintero, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
My name is Josue Garcia. I'm also a resident of the East Side, and I don't live far from the district's office as well, but I'm a resident of the district as well. And like Andres was saying, us in the labor movement, in the construction industry, we have built many of these projects for different school districts and even private corporations. And I wanted to mention a few things. That is, I agree with the President Bejarano and Trustee Quintero that it's very prudent for any organization to do a study and to request information. And we support that because that's all you are doing right now. But I think you will be very surprised of the positive possible outcomes that you can get, especially nowadays that every penny counts. As I mentioned, we have built many projects in because we are very well-trained workers. We always build them on time and on budget. We have helped the district pass bond measures and other districts as well. Another added value that maybe the President Bejarano mentioned it, or maybe I missed it, is you will be providing good paying jobs for the community. And in this case, most of the parents of your kids at the districts are live on the east side, on the east side. Our membership, or let me tell you that in construction, almost 80% of construction workers are Latinos. And on the east side, many of us are Latinos and many of us are construction workers. So essentially, you will be employing your own parents or the parents of the students that you have. So that's another added value to it. There is no secret that energy, and Anthony is going to talk about the increase on energy costs, but there's no secret. And let me put it to you this way, and Anthony is going to talk about it more. As minorities, and the east side is more minorities. We have different ethnic groups, but as minorities, I'll give you an example about myself. I have an old house, and that's all I can afford. And that's fine because I have a house and everything. But the house that I have, because it's old and I don't have the money to retrofit it, it doesn't have the insulation, it doesn't have the solar panels, it doesn't have the nice air conditioning, it doesn't have all these things. So because of that, I pay more energy. So I'm losing money every month. Now, if you go to a more affluent neighborhood, you know that one person is going to have more money than I do, and they're going to have a nice house with a lot of insulation, with a lot of equipment, with everything needed, with good appliances. So they are going to be saving money. The same thing that happens to my house and a better house is what's happening at the district level. You as a district, your facilities are not as good as other more affluent districts. So you are losing money, and the kids that you represent are losing money and are losing education. So that's very important, and I hope I'm making a point. But one more thing that I wanted to say, because President Bejarano, you mentioned the students having access to these technologies. We actually have a curriculum in the trades, because we had it at the Alum School District a few years back, where we will teach the students how solar energy or renewable energy works. We had it, we used to teach it at the classrooms on Saturdays and whenever we had an opportunity. I will be happy to show you how we do it, but it's pretty amazing because the kids learn about new technologies. They're not that new anymore, but we will expose them to good stuff, and so they can start thinking about it. And obviously the big also, especially for the new generations, is that we are saving the world. And the last thing, and then I turn it over, is that we have the ability to finance the project if once you go through the process, if you guys are interested, we can help. So you will employ local people, and even the money that we have is from local communities. So everything will stay here. And then I want to turn it over to Will and to Anthony.
Thank you for that, Mr. Garcia. I'm glad you were able to fill in some gaps that I left there. So
No, for sure. And by the way, I'm available for questions now or in the future, please.
Thank you.
Okay, Will, I just made you a panelist so you can share your screen and audio. The other person was Anthony, since Will is not yet joining.
Hello, how you guys doing? I'm Will Smith, business representative of IBEW Local 332. I represent 3,600 members in the county of Santa Clara. Many of them stay right here in San Jose. Many members right on the east side of San Jose. First and foremost, California is going through a shift, and we're moving away from dirty energy, moving away from gas, which is now considered dirty. And IBEW is on board with that wave of going to clean and renewable and more efficient sources of energy. With that being said, as things start to electrify and electrification occurs, that's going to draw a higher demand for your electrical needs. And so you have to put in the infrastructure that's going to be able to withstand the type of wattage and the draw, the amperage that the equipment that you're going to be putting in is going to need to operate with. And it's important that when this is done with a skilled and trained workforce. There was a fire during the it kind of got washed in the news with the Paradise fires, but there was a fire near Paradise. I forget the exact town it was in, and it killed somebody. Person was murdered. They had Joe Blow, random contractor come in and install a electric charger for their electric vehicle. And that obviously was bad wiring, and it created a fire that killed somebody. I think it would have been a little bit bigger publicly if it wasn't for the Paradise fires at that time. But that individual was not skilled, was not trained, didn't have state certification that installed that work. Our children are our most precious assets. They're our most precious commodities. I know I'm a product of Eastside San Jose, and I know that any school that my children go to, I would want to know that it's being wired by state certified and skilled and trained electrician for the safety of my children and their well-being. Hospitals, everything in our city, as far as anything that relates to the public, should be wired by skilled and trained professionals.
Anthony, it's here. Juan, can you let him in? He's actually on the video, on the meeting. And Anthony Dylan Kinslow. Oh, there he is. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I'm going to make this quick. I'm really here to talk to you as a scientist and someone who's been really studying this space for the past 5 to 10 years, the term environmental racism. All right. Most of us aren't aware that being Black or being Hispanic means that we are more likely to be surrounded by contaminated soil, contaminated water, and contaminated air. And it's not just about contaminations, but also about energy burden. We as Black and brown individuals have to pay more for being comfortable in our own homes, being comfortable in our schools. There's a higher energy tax to us. And so as President Bejarano and presented this, I heard about this and I was like, wow, this is great that you're looking at solar, because this is going to be potentially for y'all at Alum Rock very beneficial and really help to start to reverse those trends of having this extra burden in terms of economic burden, but also health burden that our communities experience. So.
Thank you to the additional panelists for joining and sharing your thoughts and your wisdom.
Thank you.
And okay, so thank you again. So Andres and Ernesto will go ahead and switch to questions. What I ask of all attendees is ask one question at a time, and then we'll move on to somebody else. And if you have additional questions, and I know that you do because I see some of them, we will come back to you. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity. So first up, we have Christine Clark. And Christine, you can now share your video and audio if you prefer. I will go to Brenda, since Christine may not be able to share. Brenda, you can now share your audio and video.
Hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I had actually written my questions. I had a couple questions. Do you still have them?
I do. Do you want me to read the first one?
Yeah, well, first off, I want to say I am not against solar panels. I am very supportive of this. I just have a couple questions. How it was presented on the board was nothing like this. And this would have been really nice to have this, because when you're giving half information, you question a lot of things, because this is our students' money and we are at a budget deficit. So for solar panels, from what I was hearing, you know, they don't have a specific company right now. Right now is what they're saying. I just want to make sure that this has a fair bidding process and that we look at all options. I know that because of the economy that equipment is cheaper right now, but I don't see it going high anytime soon because of COVID-19. This isn't going to be a 2-month thing. This is going to be a long-term deal right now that's going to affect a lot of us at home. I agree that this is going to save a lot of money for our district, and I'm supportive of that, and I think that we need that. My question is this company that he had presented on the board originally, where is this company based? Because that's what our understanding was, that they were going to go with this company. And when I looked them up, they were based in France or somewhere else. So if this will be on a fair bidding process, I want to make sure that it's a local company that's unionized, and that we make sure that our electrical outlets are fixed, because when we had our school assessed on what were the priorities, the number one priority was electrical outlets. We have a big issue in Alum right now with that, and I want to make sure that that's fixed. Will we fix this through Alum school budget, or will the solar panel that comes in take that cost? Are there solar companies that will fix the outlets before they put the solar panels? I think I asked more than one, but I mean, that's just my thoughts. I have nothing against solar panels if it saves the school. We're at a budget deficit right now, and anything that puts in money right now for our schools, it's a big plus. I just want to make sure that it's transparent, the process, it's done right, and that we explore options. We don't just go with the first company, that we look around and make sure that the money goes back into our community, that it's a local company.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And like all parents, we should all be interested. And I agree that more information is better. And so Ernesto and Andres, did one of you want to take the questions?
I mean, I could start really quickly. First of all, you know, as we always appreciate as board members hearing from the community, and we definitely hear a lot, and we do take that feedback into account in all of our, I mean, that's part of why we're here tonight, actually. But the first thing I just wanted to address is that with the exception of the, that little table, that Excel spreadsheet with the numbers on it, the majority of what I presented tonight was actually in the board handout for last month and was discussed during the meeting. So, you know, that was part of the packet that was available. So I know that sometimes our packets can be very dense and it's a lot to read, but the majority of this was there. It wasn't in a PowerPoint like I created tonight, but this general information was all as part of last month's discussion. And the other point, I think the other question I heard was a specific company. As Trustee Quintero already alluded to, we're not at the point of choosing a company or using a company. In fact, during our board meeting last month, our attorney, Mr. Ruiz, said we're not at that point tonight. I don't think anyone is asking to approve a contract tonight. So we're definitely not at the point of going with any company. We're just exploring, is this a fit for Alum Rock? This is, to me, the sooner we can get savings for our district, the better. But that being said, as has been alluded to by everyone, this is a big decision that needs proper and thorough investigation and vetting. So that would be my response.
I'll just repeat what I had mentioned earlier, same exact words and things that President Bejarano just mentioned, that as we closed and the action that we took was to simply bring back models so that we can go ahead and find out what works best for Alum Rock. I think that my track record of supporting, I think that the word unionized companies is something that I very much support. And something that I'm going to expect whatever comes back is something that provides good wages for folks and that provides a good product, safe product. And that's probably the most important thing, that we have a safe product that's being produced by those who are working on our schools so that our children can be safe.
And just one other, I do remember another question about the outlets or something like that. And so my understanding or the reason why I brought up the electrical panels that need to be replaced is that a lot of those facilities costs need to come from our bond money. And so if we are able to free up some of our bond money through a negotiation that we were able to work out in a case like this, that's more money that we can use to address some of these other roofs and electrical facilities and other things that we have. So, that again, that would be part of a negotiation, but the possibility exists that by doing something like this, we actually free up bond money to actually address some of those things like outlets and all the other things that are considered in facilities.
All right, thank you. Chris, your turn. Chris, we can't hear you, so I'll go to somebody else unless you start speaking in the next few seconds. It looks like the next person we have is Vanessa. And Vanessa, give me 1 second while I switch you to a panelist. Thank you for patience. I'm learning how to use this webinar feature even better. There you go, Vanessa. Yesenia. I don't know why you said Vanessa. Yesenia, did you have a question? If you do, you're on mute. Okay. Next, we have a question from Peggy. So Peggy, I'm making you a panelist. Go ahead, Peggy, whenever you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I had a question about if whoever you choose to install, the company to install it, will staff and faculty at the school be able to use it to, say, like charge their electric vehicles? And or can the community come in and charge your vehicles like at a vehicle charging station?
I think that's an excellent question. I don't know that that's something it's not something that I had considered yet. I've just been thinking about this more at a very high level and not down to the specifics yet, but that is something that would be interesting to explore. And I definitely will take that question forward. I don't, you know, if we were to get to that point, I think it's a very interesting and good thing to consider and consider as an option. But we're not there yet to have a specific answer to that, I don't think.
Okay, well, I just want to encourage you to think about that a little bit more carefully, because here in Alum Rock, here in the east side, so many people are affected by the smog and the pollution. Everybody's driving around, and as many cars as we could convert from gas powered vehicles to electric powered vehicles, the healthier the air in our communities will be.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that as part of the package as you're going through, you know, the process of finding a contractor and thinking about the possibilities. Thank you.
I think that those are great ideas, and those are all things that need to be explored. Just recently in my conversation, I think Anthony brought up the idea that some districts in the South, I believe, are using their school buses as energy storage. So all of those things I think need to be explored to see what's going to best work for our community here in Alum Rock, given our circumstances. So thank you for that, Pagan. Like, as my colleague mentioned, those are all the things that we have to bring back. I know that at the meeting, teachers brought up the idea of not just simply placing panels out in a field somewhere, but instead placing them on parking lot so that they can serve as shade for the vehicles of employees, so that when they do get out, the vehicles aren't hot. So you're producing energy, and you're helping keep people's cars safe, away from the conditions, or from the climate, from sun and rain and stuff like that.
The elements.
That's what.
And then Brenda, did you have any more questions?
No, thank you for answering my questions, and thank you for everybody that showed up and gave us more information. When I meant that this wasn't given, I meant we didn't have presenters, we didn't have any of that at our school board meeting. So it would be nice to re-invite them when you bring this up, so they can possibly answer more questions for the rest of the parents who aren't here today. Thank you, everybody, and thank you to everybody that took the time, because I know everybody's busy. And happy birthday to your daughter, Ernesto.
Thank you.
All right, and we did have, let me just make sure all questions were answered. Chris wasn't able to use her audio, I think. Vanessa is not available. Is it okay to ask a couple of questions not related to the solar panels for brief responses?
I mean, it's okay to ask them. I don't know that we will have the answer right now, but.
All right, that's okay. The question from Chris was, how well prepared is the district for online learning? And a brief response is fine.
Okay. Do you want to start that, Trustee Quintero, or I can either
Sure. We've had obviously online learning is not the ideal situation that we would want to be in. In an ideal world, we'd want to get rid of COVID and bring all our kids back, because that's what people are trained in. But in the circumstances that we are in, we are fortunate in having pushed and gotten those grants that we did with those partnerships with T-Mobile and other companies that provided Chromebooks as well as hotspots. And so the word went out to the families. Those who needed hotspots received them. And they still are there at the district office in case somebody is in need and does not have access to technology. So given the circumstances that we're in, it's not ideal, but the district has moved forward and has taken it upon itself to try to address the inequities that do exist. We have a lot of kids that don't have access, and so it's through the hotspots that we're trying to make sure that everybody has access. Secondly, our teachers have been adamant about going out there, and the administration has been connecting with the teachers to determine who isn't logging on a regular basis, what's going on. The administrators have been charged with running out there, knocking on doors, the liaisons as well, to find out where are our students? Why aren't they logging on? Do you have a problem with technology? Do you not have access? And so those things are things that our district has taken upon itself to make sure that our kids aren't just disappearing. So I'm very proud of the work that our staff has done to step up and to make sure that we don't have kids that are falling through the cracks because of COVID. Like I said, it's not an ideal situation. I don't think that I hope that everybody would all wish that we'd be done with this COVID stuff. Everybody can go back to our normal lives, but we're gonna respond to the situation that's been given to us. And so, like I said, I'm very proud of the staff for stepping up under the circumstances. We have very brave folks who, obviously they follow all social distancing requirements, but they do knock on doors, say, hey, where are the kids? How come nobody's logging on? And so we're obviously exploring and purchasing more newer technology to go ahead and help our staff prepare and deal with the challenges that are posed by online learning, especially the teaching of very young kids. As was discussed in the last meeting, we had a very, very long dialogue about the possibility of bringing back some of our most needy kids, or some of kids who are in highest need. So there are children in the district that don't have homes. And so therefore the idea was to go ahead and bring those children to a place where they can study. There are children who cannot receive support in another manner other than in person because they have special needs. And so for those reasons, the idea was to go ahead and meet the needs of those children in an in-person format. However, the governor went ahead and put out the order that nobody's going to go back in person, who was in our situations like our county here in Santa Clara. And so we're going to go all online. So we feel that we've been providing the support that is possible under our circumstances.
And I'll just add very briefly, Trustee Quintero's comments are all right on point. But just something that I will add is that we know as individuals, all of us, just how this came out of the blue and how we've had to adjust to all these changes in our lives. But behind the scenes at the district, the changes that need to happen to run this large organization with administrators and teachers and bus drivers and students and parents, it is a huge operation, particularly when the changes happen sometimes unexpectedly overnight, like very quick and rapid changes to the expectations. So since this started, that has been the case. And I think our staff and our administration has done a great job just trying to respond to all these changes and things that have occurred. However, going into this year, it seems like the state and even our county office of education have, before it was just kind of patching things and making sure we could provide something. Now it seems like we're getting a little more structure in terms of the expectations of how much time is needed for instruction, what types of systems need to be used. So as this thing continues to evolve, our administration and staff is working, seems like around the clock on this. So as I think the answer to the question is, I'm confident that our administration and staff is putting together, is preparing teachers in the best, possible way, considering the situation that's ever changing. So I don't know that anyone's ever going to be completely prepared because things change, very quickly, but a lot of work is going in behind the scenes to get us to that point when we get started. So.
Thank you. And I'll just point out that I appreciate that the district was looking at the possibility of allowing in-person teaching for those kids that need it, whether it's because it's a safer environment or they need the resources or they just need somewhere where they can focus. Honestly, that worried me. My kids don't have those challenges, but I don't want any kid to go through that. So hopefully that's allowed in the future. Final question. My understanding is that some schools still lack heating and air conditioning. Right now seems like a good time since no one is using the facilities to replace those. Is there a goal, a timeline, just a goal, a date by which the district expects to fix heating and air conditioning at schools that lack it? And again, a brief response is fine.
You want to start on that one, Trustee Quintero? Or? Oh, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not in a position to sell bonds right away. If not, then we would deal with that immediately. We're behind, and from the ballpark that we've been asking our finance person at the district, they're looking at about a year before the earliest when we can actually be in a position to go ahead and go out to sell. The public, the voters went ahead and already authorized, and so there's a certain amount. The assessed valuation is there, and so we'd probably be able to pull in some money to be able to, obviously not the full amount that the public has authorized, because the amounts are always higher than we can actually sell. But yeah, the earliest that we were, the last time the question was asked, the earliest is about a year before we can actually go ahead and move forward with, and that was a couple months ago. So let's say about 9 months before we can actually move forward and sell, and then begin to start knocking off all of those immediate safety issues. So there were safety issues that were addressed already with the money that we do have. And so those were part of an assessment that was done. And so that was to take care of the immediate red flags that popped up in that assessment. Now we have to start moving on those other major items like heating and air conditioning and all the stuff that we need to go ahead and take care of in our schools.
All right, thank you, Trustees Bejarano and Quintero, for joining us, for providing information.